So can everybody see the notice on the top of your screen that the meeting is being recorded?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, Christine, James. Odd. So we're definitely waiting for a few more people. So we'll just give it a little time. So Liz, other than the thunderstorms coming in tonight, how's New Hampshire been treating you?
It was very hot. We got here on Friday and it's been very, very hot. But the place we're staying at's really neat. It's actually a farm. And we're staying in what was the stables.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's like a little studio apartment. And the folks this is an Airbnb, the folks that own this also host concerts and have like a little performance area. So we got here and there was a concert, which they invited us to. So
very nice.
We didn't have to pay, you know, they said, just come join us. So it was a lot of fun.
Did you know that ahead of time that they did?
No, we didn't actually. I didn't pay attention to the part about them being an arts and music venue. It's called the Word Barn and it's in Exeter, New Hampshire. So if you're ever in this part of the world, it's, you know, something to check out.
What's the name, Liz, again?
The Word Barn. Sarah is actually about to release a book of poetry and, you know, and she went to Skidmore.
Oh.
So, you know, there's the New York connection there. So and we're checking out, we were in Portsmouth this morning, checking out Strawberry Banks, which is a sort of a Sturbridge Village type collection of to tour and gardens, of course. We're having fun.
Nice. I tell you, I think we're all feeling, once we actually get to get away, it feels so good when we're out. My husband and I went camping over Memorial Day weekend and it was freezing. Like we're in Lake George on the islands. It was cold, but we had the right gear and it was perfect. Like no one else was around. It was you couldn't do anything except relax and read a book, and it was perfect. So
yeah, I was on the Jersey Shore with my family. It was cold and the rain was literally biblical. We didn't even my sister has a house 3 blocks from the beach. We didn't even go there. You couldn't get there. It was like, you know, but we were just fine.
for sure. Yeah, what we're looking at. Just gonna check in on the invite list here real quick. So I've got Todd, Ben, Kat, Jacob. Well, I think we have just about everybody who was able to accept. And I know when we did the doodle poll for this one that it was tough because it was just a single afternoon. So it was a matter of, you know, what time was going to work best for the most people who were actually able to make it that day. As we get to the end of the school year, things certainly get, you know, busier and busier. So I think if we're all good, we can go ahead and get started, say hello, and kind of work our way through our topics for the day. So again, thank you all for joining us for the Study Advisory Committee meeting here today for the Ballston Spa Ped Bike Master Plan. Our primary agenda today is really going to be talking about project status, right? It's been a bit since we've all been together and a lot has been going on, especially with the public outreach and focus group meetings that Kathy and Jim at Planning for Places have been taking the bulk of, and certainly running with that and getting as many people and as much input as possible on the project. And then kind of fleshing out some of the existing conditions that we're going to take a little bit longer to do just because of scheduling and weather and all those things. So I'm going to share my screen, and please let me know if you are not able to see it. All right, I think we're good then. Everybody's giving me a nod, or so we can go ahead and just kind of get moving. All right. Again, our agenda for today is going to be the project status, to talk about also the upcoming open house, a little bit on the existing conditions and the pieces that we hadn't had compiled last meeting, and then talking immediate schedule and next steps. So I'm just going to jump a little bit into schedule so that we can kind of see where we are and where we've been, and kind of talk through. So I don't know if you all can see my hand on the screen here, but basically we had anticipated having an advisory committee meeting in April prior to all the focus group meetings. And then as kind of a project team, the decision was made to, instead of coming together in April when we didn't really have any new information, instead let's come together after all of those focus group meetings had been completed, so that we could have some new information to provide to the committee. So our SAC meeting number 3 from April was instead conducted today. So we're basically in week 4 of June. And as this is finishing up, we are going to be commencing the draft plan. And actually next week, which is not shown on here, is our public open house. So that's a little bit of where we are as far as project status and schedule goes. And we'll jump right in, Kathy, to all that focus group information that you were able to pull together with all the folks.
Sure. So we had 4 focus group meetings, including 2 with the downtown business owners. We ended up doing 2 separate sessions and combining those focus groups based on people's schedules. We had an outside of downtown area focus group. We also had a Zim Smith Trail focus group. We did reach out to the comprehensive plan committee chair to see if there was interest. I haven't heard back yet on that. But we also did meet with the county planning staff as well. I don't know if any of them are on this call, and some consultants that they have working on the feasibility for the Zim Smith Trail too. So I could just provide some summary comments on what we heard. It's mostly what we kind of expected to hear in terms of people were really felt like the sidewalk network and connecting the sidewalk network and improving connections, filling in the gaps, improving accessibility was really important. They also felt like they would like to see connections, in particular, sidewalk connections in particular, through the downtown, to the area schools, to the grocery stores and other important services, to Kelly Park, to the north side. People talked about connections to Milton Town Center as well. And there's also a lot of support equally for, connecting the village to the Zim Smith Trail and finding ways to have, the Zim Smith Trail connect from Oak Street ultimately to Spa Park. People would love to see some wayfinding signage from the trail to encourage people to go into the village. And as I mentioned, we did speak with the county, who is looking at a feasibility study of how to get from Oak Street to the Spa Park, both through off-road and on-road alternatives. And so that's underway as well. So that was helpful to hear about that process too. In terms of the Zim Smith Trail, other things that kind of came up in the Zim Smith Trail focus group in particular were looking at other connections, kind of long term, not just along Oak Street, but utilizing the creek and the Tedesco Trail and maybe utility right of ways to have some off-road connections as well. So it's something we can note in the plan. People liked a lot of the ideas in terms of what was talked about at the Complete Streets workshop for Ballston Spa in terms of looking at bike lanes and side paths, shared use paths for pedestrian bicyclists, sharrows, which are the shared lane markings. They all received very positive feedback. Other priorities people talked about were traffic calming, improving transit accessibility. We talked about, the loss of the 451. We also talked about kind of other projects underway in terms of related to the street trees and how they, create issues with the sidewalk themselves, and what looking at going forward, the village should look at what trees would be appropriate in sidewalk locations. And then people expressed some interest in some streetscape amenities, from bike racks to benches to pedestrian scale lighting. And we also talked about maybe an interest in having the shared bike program from CDPHP potentially coming to Ballston Spa as well. So that was the summary of kind of the broad summary of what all the groups said. It kind of in general. Does anyone have any questions or would like to ask about the focus groups specifically on anything?
Kathy, I guess I would just want to chime in and say, if I know we wanted to try to get a hold of John and the comp plan committee, but I mean, I think if we can't get to them before next week's meeting, I think that might be a matter of, trying to really reach out to them and make sure that we can get their attendance at the open house. So
Absolutely.
I guess, Liz, that's my thoughts on that.
That's a good idea, because they're actually in the middle of reviewing proposals for consultants. So that might be, and they're just had a hard time getting the meeting together to do that. So I think informing them about the public meeting and encouraging them to attend would be a good idea.
Yeah, so the chair is on the distribution list. So, everyone who's on that list is getting multiple e-blasts about the open house. But if you want a separate reach out, we can definitely do that too.
Do you know the total number of people were involved in the focus groups?
I do. So it ended up being about 12 people who were not on the study advisory committee. So we had a lot of attendance from the study advisory committee. Some people, showed up who didn't RSVP, and some people didn't RSVP. Sorry, some people who RSVP didn't show up. So, I think though we did have really good conversations, and I think it was still worthwhile with those folks that we did attend.
How many folks have answered the online map, have put comments in there? That might be, a good indication of participation.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest. Yeah.
So do we know the count on that? How many comments?
So I can tell you, and that's one of the items we're looking at later in the presentation, but there have been upwards of, say, 100-ish comments posted on that map. And some folks left their email or name, and some just left comments anonymously. So either of those options was fine. But yeah, there's been a lot of feedback on the map itself, which has been nice.
Okay.
And I will tell you that we have 103 people on the project distribution list. It does include study advisory committee members as well, but that's a really good list of people to have that many. So that's good too. So there were a lot of people. So in addition to the focus groups, I did have conversations and emails with some of the invitees. And some of them said, I don't have a lot to offer, but maybe you should talk to my friend. And those were the people who came in some cases. So, I think the word is getting out, and just anecdotally, we, have heard from people throughout the process too about really being interested in this project and wanting to see what's happening next and want to stay engaged and at least get emails on the project distribution list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had 2 interviews, one with the Gazette, and just answered an email from, I think, Saratoga Today. So we're getting some press on the meeting as well, which should hopefully draw out more people.
Yeah, actually, there was a couple other places it was in. It was in News 10 and the Gazette. The Express is planning on running it on the 24th to the press release. So, I mean, I think we're definitely doing what we can to get the word out. The library has all the bookmarks. We've distributed rack cards on the 450 and throughout the village. Liz, as you and Christine probably know more about that. And we have flyers out there too. And we reached out to the library to see if they could post on their social media. The village already has done that. So we'll definitely do as much as we can to let people know the meeting's coming up.
What was the library's response? Will they post it on their social media page?
They didn't yet, but I reached out again today just to follow up on that. But
who are you talking to?
Andrea, the librarian.
Andrea Simmons. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, she said she would. So it's just a matter of
her getting around to it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she might use the sign too to put a notice about the 30th as well. So
yes. Okay, great.
Yeah. So I mean, things are moving. We're gonna get the word out. I'm gonna send. I don't know if we want to. Should we move on to talking about the outreach for the open house?
Yep. So
we're kind of going in that direction.
I agree. So let me pop over to the open house. So on the open house, one of the things that I sent out yesterday was really the presentation that is anticipated. So the overall goal and format for the open house is to have a brief presentation, and we're hoping 15 minutes, but the presentation itself is a little long for 15 minutes. So we might need to cut some of the slides or just go for 20, and then to have an opportunity for people to look at the various boards and kind of talk face to face about the project itself, provide any input and comments. I know Kathy had talked about having Post-its and pens and, perhaps like sticky dots, right? So a red one, hey, here's a safety concern with a sticky dot. So it's going to be the same type of input that we're getting on the website, but instead direct from people at the open house itself. So I'm just going to kind of quickly slide through this piece, which is the presentation that we anticipate for the 30th itself. So the agenda, the welcome and project history. Liz, I'm hoping that you can do that welcome if you're available that day, because I do have those beautiful old pictures of the downtown in there. The purpose and need, public engagement efforts, the plan features and samples, and then the demonstration project. So again, the welcome and project history. Liz talks very eloquently about the history of the village and what it used to be. Some of the key issues that we've run into in the previous studies, to make sure that everybody understands that this is not starting from scratch, right? This is all building upon previous work that the village has done. Previous studies highlights those types of things. The study area, and that it's really this piece of the village, it doesn't really extend up into kind of that northwestern section, but is focusing more on the downtown area. Some brief overview of the sidewalk conditions, because sidewalks have been such an important piece of every single outreach effort that seems to be happening in the village. All the previous work, all the previous studies, sidewalks are kind of it as far as what everybody is really concerned about. The purpose and need, which is just that identification of why is the study being done and what the goal is out of it. So all of those public engagement efforts that Kathy and Jim at Planning for Places have been doing, all the opportunities for focus and outreach, the bike cards, the Facebook, the library Facebook, everything the village is posting, the press releases, just all those opportunities that people have to engage. I have to say that I've done, numerous linkage studies and public planning efforts, and boy, this one is really getting out there as far as making sure as many people can be involved as possible. So again, some of the public engagement that has taken place and kind of the next steps.
I just wanted to, Ray had a quick note in the chat about how many people we're hoping to get out of the open house. And it's a really tough question because frankly, there haven't been in-person meetings during the pandemic very much. So we don't really know what the turnout's going to be like, but we want to make sure that we get out. Everyone is aware about it as much as possible. And I think we're doing that with the efforts we have done. And that's all we can ask, because not everyone may be comfortable coming to a public meeting. I think we just have to try to get as many as possible. So the committee can help by, letting people know that it's coming up too, and with your networks, and that might help more people attend as well.
And this is going to be at the pavilion at Kelly Park, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
So people spread out. There'll be tables there, and so
Exactly.
people. Okay.
Yeah. We purposely did an outside meeting so that people might be more comfortable attending that, maybe perhaps than inside.
Yeah,
For sure.
And if it rains too, it'll be fine.
Liz or someone from the village, I have a quick question. I've seen this kind of, how is Kelly Park spelled? I've seen it a couple different ways, but on the village site, it's Kelly with no EY at the end. And I just was noticing that, and I've been using EY, and that's how it is labeled on Google, but on the village website, I believe it's just Kelly Park. So I figured I should ask before we keep promoting things.
So Jacob, actually, we used the one that was on the sign because we were debating that for the flyer and everything too.
Okay, so the sign is EY.
EY, yeah.
Yeah. It's probably if the sign that's there says EY, then that's what I would go with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Good choice.
I guess the only place I have seen it with a Y is on the village.
The village website. That's correct.
Okay. Well, it probably didn't get spelled. Okay.
So
not trying to throw people under the bus. I just wanted to make sure we were using the right.
We had a debate and we got everything printed with EY. So, but we looked at the sign and we're like, it says EY on the sign. So
okay.
Yeah.
I guess we better let the village know.
Yeah.
I think this is named for someone.
Yeah. Let me ask you, are you planning to serve any kind of refreshments?
So in a normal year, we do. What does everyone think? I mean, we could have some self-serve refreshments.
Oh, I always think you feed people. That's always that's your
yeah.
Just with COVID, it's a little trickier.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, if we have pre-wrapped things, we could do it.
I mean, I don't know. I think that's a lot of hands, and I don't know. I mean, in the past, we've worked with kind of like local sponsors if they wanted to provide, I guess in Schenectady, I've worked on one where we had ice cream and things like that to obviously kind of attract the crowd. But I don't know, the whole COVID thing just adds a layer, and I don't know. I kind of feel like the first one, if we're dipping our toes into just me in person, I don't know. I mean, I agree. I think providing something like that is going to boost some.
What about bottled water? We could do that.
I think bottled water would be.
Then you get it. Well, bottled water is one thing, but then you also get into whole, especially in Kelly Park, recycling issues.
Well, I'll take them and recycle.
I could take them home. I don't care about that.
I don't think we should have refreshments, and I don't know that necessarily people are expecting refreshments at a like a village or government sort of meeting. So,
yeah, I agree. I don't think people are expecting it. Hopefully, most people will have something to eat before they show up.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would like have put it on the flyer if we were gonna have something, because that sometimes is a hook to get people to come.
Right.
But okay, sounds like
Are
we'll
you
go without. Yep.
Still planning on doing a table at farmers market? I remember that was discussed.
Yeah, and my understanding was the project team, or maybe it was from CDTC, decided to switch focuses and move it to Kelly Park.
Yeah, I
So-
think
Well,
that
I don't
initial
mean a meeting. I meant just to be, at a table to, hand out stuff and answer questions type thing. But,
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of discussed as potentially this first open house being like integrated to an event like that. And I
Yeah.
think we ultimately decided to have it be its own entity.
Okay.
I do think that, we should remember there will be a second open house or public meeting, in the fall where we're kind of wrapping this up. So,
Okay. That
maybe
might be
there's
better
a
to
potential there, but I do think that we want to make sure that people know that they're attending a meeting for this project. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in this time frame for this first round of public involvement, I don't think that we're going to be able to do that.
Okay.
Liz, does the
wanted, I dropped the the flyers and bookmarks to the BSB
okay,
table.
Yeah. Okay.
Every market.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. If the BSBPA is there and they'll take the cards and the bookmarks, that would be real helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great.
No, that's already done.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, something to think about how we want to structure the second workshop. We could talk about that, as we get into it.
Okay.
All right, what else?
Great. So just kind of popping back in through to finish up the presentation part. So the public outreach, and part of this the part of the public presentation is going to be showing what some of the planned features could be. And I know a bunch of this had been seen through the Complete Streets workshop as far as the cycle tracks, bike lanes, and what those kinds of things look like. But there are different ideas for what features would be proposed as part of the plan. And also some really great site-specific or community-specific samples. For instance, the crosswalk in the Sharrow, the crosswalk and a median. So these options that had been presented before that are continuing to move through the process. A connection here from Oak Street, from the end of the Zim Smith, the current end of the Zim Smith, into the downtown area on East Hyde Street or East High Street as well. So what some of those plan features could look like, or what some of the plan features might be. The next item on the agenda for the public open house is really the demonstration project. And this one we've been talking about for a bit at this point, and it's on Hyde Boulevard between Grove and Chapman, and we'll get to this further on in our discussion as well. But setup is proposed for the 28th of June, so it would be up for just a couple days prior to the public meeting, and then would finish on through, I'm going to say July 6th would be the end date for the project. And I know Kathy and Jim have put together the plan and the survey for people to provide information on this particular demonstration project. So we'd pop through the demonstration project and then talk about just the next steps for this process itself. So that's the overall plan as far as the presentation for the open house. And then there are some different boards that are going to be available for people to walk around and talk to. One being what these features could look like for the overall plan. A little bit about the existing conditions as far as what the study area is, where there are sidewalks in the village, and some of the important destinations within the village itself. So these two are just pulled direct from the existing conditions assessment. A mock-up of what the demonstration project is and where it is. And then some of the comments that have been received from the website. So the image on the left here is just the aerial of the study area. So an opportunity to, put a Post-it on a board and say this is a problem, or this is a really good idea, those types of things. And then this image on the right is showing the comments that were received on the website. So each of these dots represents a comment or somebody who provided some sort of input on that interactive map on the website. I'm going to pop back up a little bit because I got myself out of order here and go to the demonstration project, I think, because that was kind of the next thing in the agenda. So Kathy, do you want to give a little input on kind of how that's going to work?
Sure. Do you mind putting the board up with the demonstration project on the screen?
Oh, can you not see it?
It's under existing conditions. You could use the PowerPoint, whichever works for you.
Okay. Let me actually close out and reshare. I
Okay.
think it's not working for me. So back to everybody's smiling faces. And now let's see if we can get to the board. Let me know, Kathy, if you're able to see that.
Yeah, it's okay. So we, as part of the press release, we're just promoting both the open house and the demonstration project. The project team selected Hyde Boulevard between Grove and Chapman to create a demonstration project, and it's we're going to be using some tape, white tape, and a couple of symbols on the road, bike symbols, to create 2 bike lanes that are 5 feet wide. The travel lanes basically will be coming down to 11 feet in width, so a reduction there, but still appropriate for cars and truck traffic as well. The parking lanes become 7 feet, so we were able to fit it all in. We're planning on setting up in the morning of the 28th. Hopefully it won't be raining. So, if it does rain, we need at least an hour of probably dry time to make sure the paint will adhere to the road. So, we just wanted to check in with the committee to see if anyone wanted to be there for the installation. The consultant team will be, taking the lead on putting down the tape and putting the symbols on the road. But if you wanted to help, I just wanted to find out who was interested in going, because if we have to change it to rain, when we're going to put it in, I wanted to make sure I got in touch with everyone. So is there anyone interested in being there when we're putting it down?
I'll walk up the street.
Okay.
What time do you expect to be there?
We were thinking 10 a.m. provided it's sunny and dry.
Okay.
So,
if it's not, I'll open up my garage and you can hang out there.
Okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We have a template for the bike symbol and the sharrow. We're gonna have sharrows on either side of the intersection, so on the other side of Grove and Chapman, and then the bike lane itself will have the bike symbol. We also have some 2 lawn signs that has a link to a survey where we're going to ask people to provide comments both on this demonstration project, but also on what their thoughts are, if they would like to see it in their neck of the woods as well, and if they have any suggestions of locations and what they think about it. So the project team has reviewed the survey. Funnily enough, we actually have survey respondents already, because CDTC published their press release, and right after that went out with the survey link that is technically live, 5 people filled it out and said that they're really excited for the demonstration project, and here's where they would like to see other demonstration projects. So, we're planning on posting the link itself on the project website the day once it's installed, and then we'll promote it then, because I prefer people to actually try it before they fill out the survey. But it was actually really nice to see their comments. They're really excited about it. The 5 people filled it out, and that's great to see that there's interest. So the plan is we'll do a couple more e-blasts for the open house, a week out for the open house, and then the day of to remind people. And then we'll do the same for the demonstration project. Once it's installed, we'll tell people it's open. And, maybe later in the week say, hey, did you try the demonstration project? Here's the link to the survey. And, again, when it wraps up, when we take up the tape. So, I think I'm hoping we'll get a lot of survey respondents. I think given that people are already filling it out, that's a good sign. So we'll kind of.
I distributed those letters to the folks that block and a little on either side, and spoke to 3 of them, and all of it was, very positive. Yeah, that's a great idea.
And that's great.
I'm curious to see is if the traffic slows down there, because the lane width will be obviously narrower. That's one result that, I think the folks who live along there, will observe if it happens. Because that's the major concern, on that street. They think the bike lane's a great idea to provide access for cyclists, but their number 1 and 2 concern is speed on Hyde Boulevard and the large truck traffic that doesn't belong there.
Yeah, certainly narrowing the lanes will definitely help with that. And I think people are interested in the median concept too. I don't know whether we could do both, if there's is a question, I think, depending on the right of way for the whole length of Hyde. But, I think it's something worth exploring. And if people are interested in just at least changing the road somehow, then we'll get that sense from them, I think, if they try this stuff.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Any other
Kathy,
questions? Yep.
Was that the 28th at 10 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to plan on being there.
Okay.
Yeah, I will try and be there as well.
Okay, Christine. Okay, so we'll get in touch if we have to change the time based on rain.
Mhm.
Great. Okay, so that's the demonstration project. Pretty excited about this. I will be there too, broom in hand. So
Yeah, bring a
happy to-
broom.
happy
If
to
you have a
sweep.
broom, that would be great, because we're going to sweep the road before we put the tape down just to make sure it sticks well.
Not the whole road, just where the tape's going.
Yeah. Just where the tape's going and where the stencil is going. Yeah.
So it's not my workout for the day then. as
No,
far
that's
as-
right.
Okay.
Or
I
a
gotcha.
leaf blower. Leaf blower might work too, because if there are leaves in the road, that's not a bad idea.
All right.
Yeah, and Jeff said he would be there with the signs and cones as well. So
Great. Perfect.
hopefully I'll let him know that the team plans on being there at 10. So
Okay.
he'll probably leave those signs and cones before then, because he starts early.
Great. Yeah, that's perfect. And then we'll move them where we need them to be. And the thought was that time that people would have already left for work if they're leaving for work or whatever, and it might be a little easier to do.
Sure, for sure. Okay, so our demonstration project. The next item we really had on the overall agenda for today was to talk a little bit about some of the existing conditions that have come since our last advisory committee meeting. So I'm actually going to switch into a different view real quick because I know that everybody was been
Alana.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I guess since we're moving away from the project boards and open house kind of thing, I guess I wanted to, could we kind of send an email out and ask for any comments by like Friday?
Sure.
I guess I've got a couple things that, I can send to you, but maybe if anyone on the advisory committee, if you guys have a chance to take a look at the boards and the presentation, if there's any kind of comments or thoughts, if you could get those to Alana and Kathy by Friday, maybe, That way we can kind of make some tweaks before next Wednesday if we have to.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I already sent you guys an email and thought it would, if you have some sort of, the sidewalk, where we have sidewalks, if maybe, you did that sort of color coded with our sidewalk assessment data or something like that, because I think people are interested in seeing, what the results of our sidewalk assessment was. So that's just one thought.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thought on, I guess that's why I haven't really, I made some maps with that. I wasn't sure if we want to be posting that at this point, only because we have them by parcel. And I didn't want to potentially offend or call out someone. If it was just the color coded sidewalks, I don't think it'd be a problem. I mean, does anybody, I don't know. That was just my thought. If
Yeah.
I didn't want to go ahead right away and be posting like, a red parcel and somebody could be there and be like, oh, that's,
It's mine.
so,
yeah.
I
it would
didn't know if we wanted to do that yet, but I mean, I certainly think that we want to talk about the sidewalk condition inventory and maybe make some general observations. I mean, we
Yeah,
can
I
talk.
mean, maybe
sure.
percentages, this much, this number, include the data on how many are tree impacted, I mean, general data, not specific to parcel, would be, I think, useful for people to hear that, we had X percentage of our sidewalk got a rating of 4 and doesn't need any help. And we, I know, at least from doing a few streets, that quite a number, are ones and twos.
So Jacob, I actually do have some of that information queued up. If you want me to pop open that file and we can kind of take a look at it. It is, like you said, it's by parcel, and I can certainly just share that piece of my screen if we want to talk through some of what was found.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we were going to existing conditions anyway, right? So
Yeah,
let's,
yeah. Let's
definitely.
pop that up and see.
But yeah, I
let
mean,
me
I guess
see
my thoughts
screen.
on that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my thoughts on that were, maybe in our final plan, I do think we can come up with a way to show it. Maybe, I don't know if we can bring it back to like the sidewalk, but I don't know. Before really looking at it, I wouldn't want to be posting someone's parcel at a public meeting, and I don't know. I just thought that could get.
It's a little
crazy.
tough without context yet, right?
Right.
So
right.
wait, absolutely.
I gave Liz and I gave me a 2. I'm willing to say that in public.
Oh.
Which I knew, I was surprised I got that much, but
So what you're looking at right now is actually, can you see my screen with all the parcels up?
yes,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, so this is all the data that had been compiled by volunteers and then that Jacob had put into this GIS format so that it's associated with, it is parcel level, so that's why it's associated with blocks instead of just a line. So what you're seeing is sidewalk ratings from 0 to 4. So 1, of course, is like, yay, woo, I'm a 1. And then up to 4, which is a little bit problematic. So
Actually, isn't it wait a minute.
did I do it opposite?
Yes, you did it opposite.
I did it opposite.
4 is the best.
Yeah.
And 1 is the
4
worst.
is the best.
Okay. So thank you for the correction, because that's going to matter, of course. So then in this instance, the way that this is displayed, though, is with red as being woohoo, good, and green, and then blue is a 0, like a kind of a no information or a 0. So we'll just need to quantify or qualify what each of these kind of mean.
Yeah, and some of the other problems with it, though, is like at the end of Hyde, you show like there is a sidewalk there for the parcel, but the sidewalk is actually just on East High. So, we have that noted in the description, but on Hyde, from that whole end has no sidewalks.
Yes.
So
yeah. So it's
yeah.
some of that data at the parcel level, right? So there's just ways that we understand what we're looking at, but it's hard to quantify and display for everybody else, essentially.
Right.
And just as an FYI, I personally was having trouble finding using the data down here for this sector 1, so that's why it's not in here. The data is available, it just wasn't populating well for me. So this is every other space 2 through 5 that were documented within the town. And this does, I'm going to open up, and it's not going to be real easy to see, but I want you to also see the table information that goes with this. So as each of these has, for instance, those notes, again, I apologize, it's a little hard to see, but each section has a note associated with it. So for instance, this teeny little parcel right here in the middle says it's sidewalk condition 2 and that it was uneven and cracked. So all of this data is linked right within the GIS file that Jacob had compiled and put together with all those notes and the classifications of everything. So it's a very robust set of information.
So red is the best.
Red appears to be the best. It's a 4. So,
And what is orange?
So that's working our way down. It's just kind of follows the color table. So orange is going to be
I can't
3.
see on my screen. I can't see a color table. I have something.
That's okay. That's no problem. So red is considered the best, and then we work our way down. Orange is second best. Then we get to the 2, which is yellow, 1, which is green, and then the zeros. So I think that when we display this again for public public information, I'll switch up these colors so that it's going green as the best, because I think that's the way people often read those things visually.
Yeah, red is, yeah.
Yeah, Alana, I can send you, I guess when I had done my drafts, I can send you the kind of the scales that we use when we do pavement inventories.
Perfect.
You know, just with like the RGB, I mean, it's just green, yellow, or green, blue, yellow, red, but at least that way it might can be consistent. But yeah,
Do the same thing for
I guess for your sector 1, do you think it is the data screwed up, or were you just having trouble with it in GIS? Because I guess do you need me to send over that file?
I think just
again?
resending it. Yeah, I think resending will take care of it. It just wasn't, sometimes GIS doesn't play well with me. So
Right.
I think that's all it was.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's a lot of information in here, and this particular file also has those public input points. But I'm going to jump to those as a different screen if we want to talk through some of that information. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to just pop in too. I mean, and Liz, so I mean, obviously, for the village perspective, you know, we're able to kind of make this nice map now and at least have a documentation of the sidewalk conditions. But, you know, I kind of see this as a way to something that the village can take going forward and kind of update. And I guess, I don't know if there is GIS capability, but at least that spreadsheet could potentially be pulled out and just kind of updated by address too in the future. So
Yeah, it's very
I
useful.
guess, right, more than a mapping tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so this was one of the last pieces actually of the existing conditions information that was needed in order to flesh out the full existing conditions assessment. The other piece that is currently being progressed, and I'm going to pop to that on my screen here. This is Google Earth View, and we're currently in the process with some different volunteers of conducting pedestrian and bicycle counts at these pink dots. I apologize if that's difficult for anybody to view. I'm going to turn off the signals here, and maybe that'll help out a little bit.
Yeah. Did we get specific one? That was actually one of my questions. We haven't really gotten any specific instructions about doing those. At least
Why don't I give you specific instructions, which I thought I had provided, but I must have missed it. So why don't I go ahead and either give you a call or whatever as far
Yeah,
as
because I was,
getting
that's
through
what I
that.
was, right now, this week I'm on vacation. I'll do it
Yep.
when I get back, but,
Perfect.
I volunteered to do, Hyde, East High, but I didn't know, is there a particular time of day, or day of week that, I should be, conducting this, or, I thought we were gonna get a little bit more specifics in order for those people doing these counts.
Alana, those were in the instructions, time of
Yeah,
day,
Alana, yeah.
which direction, all that was in the instructions.
Alana
didn't get
sent it. Yeah, she didn't. Alana sent it on June 4th at 6:37 p.m. But the thing is, it's trustee Fitzpatrick is in there twice, and there's no trustee Cormos.
Ah.
Yeah, so I was wondering why I got it twice, but I did. So I got, there once again, Liz, we're interchangeable.
Sorry about that, Liz.
That
I will
explains
re-forward
it.
that. I will re-forward the information. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, I just was waiting and figured it was gonna come sometime.
Yeah.
Nope, and it's not complete at this point. We've had a couple folks that have had the opportunity to finish them up, and certainly if you didn't receive the instructions, it's a whole lot harder to do it.
Yeah.
But we're also finishing up this week, and I know that the location Ralph and Kent near the pool was going to need to be done once everything was open. So we're just finishing up that piece right now, and it will be compiled with that information. The other thing that anybody who might have been out going for a walk or a bike ride over the last week or so was you would have seen the automatic traffic recorder, the tube across Hyde that was counting traffic volume, travel speed, and vehicle classification information. So we have all of that. It was a 7-day count, so it did also include the weekends. We wanted to make sure we got all of that information, and I'm going to pop back into my PDF now here.
Oh, great. Yeah, I was wondering if that had happened or not.
It
There's also
did.
been some counts further down on East High. And I don't know if they're related to the potential development at the old German restaurant. Maybe somebody's proposing something and doing a traffic study down there, because that's where it's close to. But if it's data you guys can grab, it might be useful.
Yeah, and if it's not by the state, it's harder for us to get to unless it comes to the village as, is that within the village boundaries or is that outside the village?
No, that's in Ballston.
Okay, so those types of things usually then end up being foilable, so we can get the data once it's been submitted to the town and
Okay.
try and have some of that
Would there
information.
be any rationale to having a traffic count in the demonstration area?
So,
With the demonstration active? I just a thought.
right.
I don't
So
know if it's
bicycles are
practical.
harder to count, quite frankly, so I'm not sure that you would get the same. I'm not sure you would get a real picture, also because you're trying to increase traffic at that location through the demonstration project, at least through the bicycles. So Jacob,
No,
I'll definitely let you weigh in on it.
Yeah, I mean,
I was
if-
thinking more what its impact on vehicle traffic would be.
yeah, I mean, I guess, strictly from the budget, we don't have room for another ATR count. So, I mean, I'll say that. I mean, I guess, we've got the other end of Hyde on a typical weekday, and it probably doesn't reflect exactly what's going through on that end, but
No,
it could give
a thought
it's
that,
right.
it would be great if the demonstration showed it had a real impact. I mean, we had a quantifiable impact on traffic speed.
Yeah, and I think speed you might be able to glean some data on what you've done to the speed there, but I would have to think in a demo project, most of the traffic, I don't know how much traffic is going to get diverted typical driver may or may not know that that's happening, so they might not really change their route. But
No, I don't expect people necessarily to change their route. I'm just
Right.
thinking the impact on speed. But, you know, if we, you know, if we can sort of measure it anecdotally, you know, as well from comments, that'll give us some indication.
Right, right. Okay, so I'm just going to pop back up into the data piece of things here. So looking strictly at traffic volumes, I'm going to pop into this page. So the average weekday volume on that location is roughly 3,200 vehicles. And like I said, that's average for the weekday. I was actually a little surprised, not completely, because Saturday traffic is almost, or typically almost, as comparable as weekday traffic, but the Saturday traffic volumes are almost as high as the weekday traffic volumes, in that it's also around 3,200 vehicles per day. And then Sunday, it's very, very normal for Sunday traffic to drop a little bit. So the Sunday traffic is more like 2,800 vehicles through that section. So we also looked at speed, and the speed is measured directionally. So it'll look at the northbound travel speed and the southbound travel speed. And it will also give you information about the percentiles. So the 15th percentile, the 50th percentile, the 85th percentile, and the 95th percentile. So the average speed, both northbound and southbound, was about 27 miles per hour. But the 85th percentile speed, so that's the speed at which like 85% of all traffic is traveling at or below that speed, is a little over 30. It's 32 in both directions. So not super excessive, quite frankly, but when you are in a neighborhood and you're on your residential street, 30 feels fast when you're walking through. I know in my neighborhood, my daughter's a driver now. She's been driving for about a year, and we are very clear with her, like, hey, when you're in the neighborhood, you're going 20, not 30, because it's posted 30, but it doesn't feel neighborhoody, you know? And she says the same thing to her friends. When her friends come in the neighborhood, she's like, guys, you gotta slow down. There's like the kids moving around and whatever. So it's not that people are really speeding. They're not. It's just that it feels fast for a neighborhood. So you want to do those things like the bike lane, like striping, like a median, to provide that visual aid to slow folks down even
What about,
more.
you know, is the recommendation to drop the speed limit? It is a village street. It's something we could do.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard to do, to get the speed limit dropped, and there is definitely a process to go through that. But
well, I don't think I don't think, do we have to, I don't remember, you know, from before, if we've ever changed any speed limits, but it is not a state.
It's not state, right?
Right.
State or federal, you know, or county road. It is a village road. So I think and I'd have to check, you know, we have jurisdiction over the speed on that road. So,
right.
I mean, it's been something that people have talked about, you know, whether it actually impacts how fast people go when it's a nice wide open road is another question.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think we always like to talk about changing the speed through the design.
Right.
And right, I mean, certainly dropping the speed limit can play a role, and with enforcement. But if you can accomplish that through kind of narrowing the road and adding the bike lanes and some other features that could slow the traffic without needing to do that, then I mean, it's probably going to be more successful.
Do you have any data on trucks?
Yes, I do have vehicle classification information. So a couple things about classification. I'm just gonna, hoping everybody can still see my screen as far as what we look at with regards to classification. So the Federal Highway Administration has 13 or 12 or 13 classes that they actually document. So this is what everybody compares when they're looking at different vehicles. So classifications say 1 through 5 are going to be pretty normal. So you've got the motorcycle, passenger cars, pickup trucks and vans, buses as number 4, and then number 5, classification number 5 is like 2 axles, 6 tires. So like a dually, or one of the, like a box truck is kind of your biggest vehicle on that classification. Then once you get up to say classification 6 and above, those are the vehicles that people don't want as much in their neighborhood. Certainly you don't want any tractor trailers, and those aren't allowed anyway. But even classification number 6 or 7, those are starting to get larger. We've got multiple axles, multiple tires. So that's the kind of area that people really are considering truck traffic. So
Yeah,
classification
we
6
actually
and up.
post, I think, by weight also.
Yeah.
How's that delay?
So
Doing
weight
weight.
restrictions, because you can't limit by size, you can only limit by weight. So that's why they do it, say local delivery only, or no trucks over 5 tons, you know, those kinds of things can get, are the way that those are typically posted. So just kind of from an overall total perspective, most of the vehicles going through the study area are 5 and lower. But there are certainly some that are coming through that are 6 and above. So that's what I'm looking at right here: 52, 5, 11, 4, 1. And that's only in the southbound direction. So that would be going from it toward Milton Ave there. So there are some that are going through the village. And what I noted was actually that it's actually more in the southbound direction than in the northbound direction. And I don't know if that's anecdotal as well. Yep. Okay. So yes, it is that it's more in the southbound direction than the northbound direction. And it's not that it's a significant volume comparatively. We're not talking about that many, but for those folks, it may be disruptive and something that would be preferred not to have. But those are your actual volume data that we were able to document, and that'll be something that's part of the existing conditions assessment.
What's a typical FedEx truck? What classification is that? Because they'd be allowed for local delivery.
So FedEx is going to be a 5, right?
Okay.
So they're usually just a 2-axle vehicle.
Okay.
I was kind of hoping one would be driving by because they're always delivering to the neighborhood, but I don't see one right now.
And there are also a lot of Amazon vans, and those would be in this category in number 2, right? Number 3.
Yes.
Those Amazon Prime, I see a lot of those in the neighborhood. But
Yeah.
They've got
And
their
it feels
own
like
trucks
there's going to
now.
be more and more. You know, we're going to have more and more of those last mile delivery vehicles that are going to be in
Didn't we
the
have
area.
any buses? Because this is, I mean, that was, we can't tell the difference if it's a school bus or it's some other kind of bus, right?
Right. So yes, there were definitely buses in the area.
Milton Avenue, you have buses on Milton Avenue, both the regular CDTA and the NX, which is also part of CDTA, and a lot of school buses. Occasionally, you see one of those tour buses that's lost its way. But
Well, this wasn't a measure on Malta. It was a measure on Hyde. There really shouldn't be any. Well, school buses, yes, but that's all that should be on Hyde.
Yeah, how you doing?
And that's definitely what you were seeing as far as that goes, based upon kind of time of day of when the
Okay.
buses were coming through.
All right.
Personal finance? Yesterday, were you working on some course or something?
No.
Sorry.
So, okay, that's useful. Yeah, I think one of the things, that folks are going to want to see as far as, what kind of methods are there to discourage very large trucks from entering, a no truck because clearly the neighbors and myself, I see it all the time, big semi coming through, and they're not local delivery,
Yeah.
So interestingly, my brother lives on the northern end closer to Malta Avenue, and he's been talking to a lot of the cops that have been pulling over the trucks. There's some weird issue where the commercial GPSs are incorrectly directing people down that way. And I can't say, it's been an issue forever, but lately that's something that has been kind of happening. So I don't know if there's something the state can do to work with these companies to sort that out, or I don't know how that works, but that's just something to know.
I have heard that for a very long time.
Yeah, I've heard that actually the truck drivers prefer to use regular GPS that we use because they don't have to pay for it, and it does direct them down Hyde. And supposedly the official GPS systems, which they have to pay
Correct,
for.
but this is the commercial ones that are doing it.
The commercial ones are actually directing. Great.
Yeah, so I was literally talking to my brother about this, and it's been a bigger issue lately. So
Yeah.
at least with the GPS, the commercial GPS.
I don't know who we contact because I don't
actually. So
I
quick
can't
question.
believe that we're the only ones who are suffering from, trucks being directed in the wrong place.
Hey, John, can you go on mute, please? Yeah. I think we're getting background from you. Thank you.
Quick question. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is it signed for no trucks?
Yeah.
It is signed?
There's been signs for, yep.
Okay, excellent. So perhaps it might be worth looking at whether or not there are signs actually on East High and on Malta indicating no turns for trucks there, or something to indicate the actual truck route direction. I know that, so a lot of times the way you can submit a request per se, I think by email or something like that to Google Maps or various companies to request a shift in traffic allowances. However, I know a lot of them just design it based on automation. So they actually, as their vehicles go around, they keep track of the signage and accordingly will route vehicles according to that. So if for some reason the signage either is too worn out, either wasn't clear, it's very possible that the automated creation of these of routing would have led to this. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, something to check into.
Just a quick question also. Being that Hyde Boulevard runs parallel to the railroads beds, and there's two cross lanes where they, a truck coming down Malta Avenue may realize when they get there that, hey, I'm not going to fit. Or same thing on Hyde. Could that be what's causing any large trucks to go that way? Because they really got no other place to go if they, if they see that underpass and they're not going to fit, either hit the underpass or turn down Hyde. Would that be a possibility?
This is Jacob. I think that could be possible. Only, I say that because kind of going back to the GPS thing, we have a freight advisory committee, and it's kind of a common thread that we've heard too, is that some of the low bridge strikes that we see in the region can sometimes be kind of attributed to GPS bringing people the wrong direction. So, it's not crazy to think that somebody could be getting to that bridge and realizing they need to turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have friends that are truckers, and I can't imagine them going down that road and saying, oh, this is going to be a shortcut to somewhere. I don't know, you know, that it's intentional more so than it is an avoidance of a collision, maybe.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I just checked the height of the bridge there on Malta, and you are absolutely correct. It's 12 feet 11 inches, and the full semi trailers are 13 feet and 6 inches, something like that, up to that. So and the signage is right there at Hyde, the warning sign. So I'm sure if they see that sign, they're going to make that right instead of going straight.
Yeah. Although there is
so-
further up on Malta where the road, what's the name of the road?
It's North
It
Line.
goes
So
up to
there's-
North Line. There is
Yeah.
signs that says truck route, pointing trucks coming down Malta from Route 9 to take a right, but they continue. But
I wonder if there's
coming-
a supplemental plaque that could be added to some of that signing that indicates why it's a truck route, like, you know, low bridge or something,
Yeah,
just to supplement and allow a greater understanding of why you really don't want to go that way.
yeah. Well, I don't know how many it would take really seeing where are the trucks coming from? Are they coming from Milton Avenue or are they coming from, you know, the east, you know, that are turning down on Hyde? That's data we don't really know which way they came from. When they went.
Actually, it makes sense that they're coming from Milton because they wouldn't make it under the bridge.
Yeah, the ones
so-
that wouldn't make it under the bridge, but the other ones that can fit under the bridge may also be coming
True.
from that direction. So,
However, those are likely not the Class 6 and above trucks because of the height that Class 6 trucks are. So they're probably trucks that are mistakenly going up Malta from Milton and then having to go back down to High. And maybe there are some that are short enough, perhaps flatbed trucks or things like that are coming in from the east as well. So it could be a decent split either way. I
we
can't
need to
speak
take a look what's at Milton to tell a truck don't turn onto Malta.
I just checked that
It's
too,
not-
and there's nothing there.
Yeah. So, well, it's an issue that, you know, we can try to improve.
Right.
Yeah, it does sound like there are options there. That's great. So the last kind of graphic or thing that I had is the output of the public input points. And I'm going to share my screen again that I had just turned off. Because I know, Liz, you had asked about the number of people that have been commenting. And so let's see if I can kind of zoom in a little bit here. So the image to the left is really the points where people are providing some level of comment, and then they correspond to these items on the right. So for instance, if I were to take a look here at, say, we'll go right here to East High Street. And we've got all these comments right here, one of them being the intersection is too wide and pedestrian unfriendly. Many cars use the new turn only lane to go around the cars trying to turn left onto 50. Pedestrian signals should have an all stop for traffic to allow pedestrians to cross. So there's all these excellent points and input and feedback, and we know exactly what it is, where it's coming from and what it is specifically pointing to. So there's been a lot of information in this sphere as well. And although, you know, many of these you can see are outside of the study area, this is still a great way to document them and identify them for whatever may be able to happen in these other areas in the future. But at least these comments are not gonna, they're not gonna go away, right? We can document them and you can maintain that kind of logbook of thoughts from the public. So that's that, and I'm gonna pop back into the presentation
I mean, you can clearly see where most of the comments were, which should, I assume, help, as one piece of information for prioritization of projects.
And like you said, there's a lot here
Yeah.
on a lot on Hyde, a lot of comments here about connecting the Zim Smith into the park. Having comments here at Ballston Ave with West High Street, a kind of a cluster here at Union. So there's definitely a heat map. It's almost a heat map identifying kind of where people are thinking and commenting.
Yeah. And I would hope that would feed into, be part of your sort of prioritization.
Exactly. That's an excellent way to do the prioritization, is what are people really pulling out. So that was kind of our existing conditions as far as those extra things that we were getting finished up with. And then we're kind of at next steps. So the very first next thing happening is the demonstration project, for the initial setup being on the 28th, weather permitting, and getting all of that down. And then having what's not on here is actually the public meeting. And we have a public open house on June 30th, so that's coming right up as well. I know Kathy has been doing a bevy of emails and press outreach and all sorts of stuff to make sure that there's a lot of people who know about it and are in attendance. From kind of the technical approach, the existing conditions assessment now gets to be kind of compiled and finished up. So our goal is to get that to the kind of the smaller project team within about a week or so, and then getting it out to the full study advisory committee by mid-July. And at that point, you all will have a little bit of time to kind of review and look through that information, while concurrently going on is the development of the draft plan, and really identifying, essentially putting the pen to paper and taking the ideas and putting them into a concrete plan. And where is something a priority, or what's the best feature here? I think one of the things that everybody really needs to understand about the draft plan and the plan itself is that there are trade-offs. And this is a built community. And so it's not a matter of just putting in kind of what would be the very best thing, or what meets all the proposed or all the best types of widths and standards. What we have to do here is some retrofit work. And there are trade-offs that are associated with that. Some of that means if we want to put in a bike lane, then parking gets removed. Or if you're going to put a crosswalk in with a bump out, then again, parking might not. Parking might get removed. So a lot of it is available width, and kind of using the best practices and being flexible within the standards and guidelines to make a product that is implementable. We don't want to throw something down on paper that can't actually be built. That doesn't help you at all. But we do have to, in this process, identify what the trade-offs are. What is the trade-off associated with this particular recommendation? Because otherwise it's really hard to make decisions. So that's a major goal of this plan. I'm trying to think if there's anything else at this point. I know I have an email to send out to the entire committee with, again, the presentation and the boards, just looking for feedback by the end of business on close of business. Close of business for me sometimes is like 10 o'clock at night. So, by Friday at some point. And then we'll kind of be all ready for the open house coming right up. So Jacob and Kathy, is there anything else that we need to make sure we're covering right now? Otherwise, we get to give people 40 minutes back in their day, the gift of time.
I think that's all I have, right? If you get that email out and we can get some comments on the boards and meeting materials by Friday, that'll give you some time to make any changes. Other than that, I say, just keep promoting the open house for next Wednesday, and make sure you tell your friends, and we want to get as many people there as possible. So, encourage everyone to stop by and give their input.
Yeah, I'd probably just say the same thing. So thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll contact John, or I think actually I have the list of all the members, and I will send the thing about the pamphlet about the meetings and encourage them to attend. I'll just invite the whole comprehensive plan committee.
Yeah, feel free to forward the constant contact e-blast if that makes it easier too.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll keep promoting it on our social media as well.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all your time and energy. And enjoy your extra 40 minutes. Merry Christmas. Or happy summer solstice. One of the two. All right.
Thanks, Alana.
you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Kathy.
all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everyone, for
Okay.
coming.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye
Sarah.
now.
Bye.